Well, matters are moving in the right direction for the 49ers, and I have visual evidence here from the facility. That is Mac Jones throwing the football. Didn't happen on Thursday. Happened during today's session right before the 49ers took the buses to San Jose Airport for the flight to Tampa. That right next to Mac Jones is Adrian Martinez, who had to take all the throws at practice on Thursday. Got some help from Mick Lombardi in the white shirt, the 49ers quarterback's coach. But Martinez is going to be the 49ers backup in all likelihood for Sunday's game. Mac Jones should start for the 49ers against Tampa, although he is officially listed as questionable. I've got the rest of the injury report for you here. Juwan Jennings has practiced for 2 straight days, so he is trending toward playing, but officially listed as questionable for the 49ers. Malik Mustafa has to be listed as questionable because the 49ers have yet to activate him from the physically unable to perform list, but I expect that move to officially come on Saturday. San Francisco is going to have to make a corresponding roster move for Malik Mustafa. Upton Stout, officially questionable for the 49ers with his ankle injury, but I also expect to see Upton out there. And Alfred Collins, Kalia Davis, 2 defensive tackles, also both questionable, but I would expect to see both of them. I talked to Kalia in the locker room today, and I asked him about the club on his hand. And first off, there was really good news for the 49ers because he had surgery the day after breaking his hand in the game against the Rams. And then he came back in on Tuesday, had a checkup with the doctor, and the doctor said, you can play with a club this weekend. That was initially unexpected news. Kyle Shanahan had anticipated Kalia Davis being out for a couple of weeks, but the positioning and the status of the fracture combined with the fact that the club, Kalia told me that it's soft on the inside, then it's got the hard shell, and then it's a bit softer on the inside. And he said it feels like a cloud. He's swinging a pillow around there. It made it possible for him to play in this game, and the 49ers do need a lot of defensive tackle help. Unfortunately, Kevin Givens not ready to go yet this week, although his practice window to return from IR has opened, so they've ruled Givens out. It's going to be up to Kalia Davis, Alfred Collins coming off of the knee sprain, and probably a call-up from the practice squad for the 49ers at that defensive tackle position. Yetur Gross-Matos has been ruled out for the 49ers. That was expected. Ricky Pearsall also out. Brock Purdy out. All of that expected. We talked about this over the course of the week. So it is going to be the Mac Jones, Adrian Martinez quarterback room for the 49ers. For Tampa Bay, take a look at their injury situation because it's not much better than the 49ers. Bucky Irving and Zion McCollum both ruled out today. Zion McCollum, the cornerback who made some plays against the Seattle Seahawks last week. The Bucs secondary is depleted. They're missing some players. Now they have Antoine Winfield Jr., who was banged up last year but did play against the 49ers, surrendered the long touchdown to Ricky Pearsall. So Winfield, I mean, that's a strength, especially since he's fully healthy this year. But the cornerback position definitely dealing with health issues, and so is the wide receiver position. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin for Tampa Bay. Now they have Emeka Egbuka, who was awesome against Seattle, but I will have to say, just watching tape of that game against the Seattle Seahawks, the Bucs were able to capitalize on a decimated Seattle secondary. I mean, there was no Devin Witherspoon in that game. Reek Woolen exited that game. Seattle was down to its 3rd, 4th, 5th string corners, and Egbuka went crazy. I get it, but they also had Chris Godwin to take some attention off of Egbuka. Sterling Shepard is a good receiver, especially out of the slot, 3rd down kind of guy. But they were able to capitalize on some weaknesses for the Seattle Seahawks, whereas I would say that the 49ers, their unit-wide strength on defense is cornerback. I mean, you've seen it over the course of this season. I covered it in my big breakdown of San Francisco's defense. There is not a single below-average performer in coverage, and that includes Upton Stout, who's been picked on in that cornerback room. Now, the 49ers have had issues at safety. I get it that Marquise Siegel has given up a lot of yards, actually the most of any safety in the NFL this season, but that's exactly where Malik Mustafa's return looms large. He can immediately inject the 49ers defensive backfield, particularly that safety room, with what they need. So, the more that I watch Tampa and the offensive explosion against Seattle, the more that I realized that Tampa was able to capitalize on some deficiencies that were rooted in injury of the Seattle Seahawks that they may not be able to capitalize on when it comes to the 49ers defense. Now, everything is thrown out the window if the 49ers can't get any pressure. Baker Mayfield this year has completed 64% of his passes when he hasn't been pressured, and that drops down to 49% with much lower efficiency when he has been pressured. And we know that the 49ers have really struggled. Pressure rate has dropped from 34 to 17% without Nick Bosa. I'm going to keep on going back to the right side of that Tampa Bay offensive line. With Charlie Heck, the backup right tackle, filling in for Luke Gadecki. Heck has given up those 22 pressures. Maybe the 49ers can line up Bryce Huff against him. And as long as you can generate pressure against one part of that line, Baker Mayfield is technically under pressure. That's when that completion rate has dropped from 64 to 49%. It's going to be really hard against Tristan Wirfs on the left side, but I think that the 49ers can make some hay on the right side. Maybe Robert Saleh can continue manufacturing some pressure, and you get Baker Mayfield into situations where the true gunslinger comes out. Gunslinger is a double-edged sword. He can rack up some big yardage, he can make some impressive throws, but he can also put the ball in harm's way. One of my bold predictions, and I'm going to share my prediction for the score of this game tomorrow. You guys know how that works. That happens on Saturday. But one of my bold predictions is that the 49ers are going to notch their first interception in this game. It's funny that the corners are leading this team unit-wide. They've been good in coverage, but they don't have a pick yet. And, you know, a lot of that is because the pass rush hasn't been quite what the 49ers have needed it to be. And the safeties, I don't think, have been as good as the corners, as I've stated. But Malik Mustafa's back. The 49ers pass rush should have a window of opportunity against the right side of that Tampa Bay line, and I think they may need an interception, maybe 2 interceptions, to overcome their status as underdogs and win this football game. Looking at it from the other side of the ball, you know, the Adrian Martinez interview is obviously coming up at the end of this video. There's a non-zero chance the 49ers need to use Adrian. I mean, it's a good sign that Mac Jones was able to throw today despite the knee and the oblique issues. But truth of the matter is the 49ers have been managing Mac. He injured his oblique on the last play of the game against the Rams. And Tampa blitzes a whole heck of a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw extra pressure early on to test Mac's mobility. And if it fails that test, if he is knocked out of this game, even for a few plays, Adrian Martinez is going to be the only other quarterback active for the 49ers. So this might be his time, and he's a mobile guy. He talked about the UFL and how he got some snaps there. He was the MVP of the league in the UFL and really got to work in the context of a pro-style system in a way that wasn't possible back when he was in college. That was a lot more read option running stuff for him at Nebraska and Kansas State. 49ers have been developing Adrian Martinez ever since the day he showed up, which was right around the roster cut down, and maybe that mobility is going to be called upon on Sunday. I mean, the 49ers have been finding so many creative ways to win games this year. It would not shock me if they had to go full 2022 mode and go to QB3 at some point. Just because they've been exposing their quarterbacks to so many hits this year, they lead the NFL with 40.4 passes per game. Mac Jones has gotten hit a lot. Brock Purdy's obviously out. He's hurt. You know, going to QB3 wouldn't be crazy for San Francisco, and it's at least something that they have to have a contingency plan for. They have to have some plays in there for Adrian Martinez. So brace yourselves for Sunday because Tampa is going to bring a lot of heat. Also realize that Tampa, these guys are beaten up. Like I said, beaten up in the secondary. Let's finish up the Bucs injury report. Benjamin Morrison, who's a backup corner, is also out. Josh Williams, their backup running back, ruled out of this game. And then Christian Izzen, who's another one of their defensive backs, is questionable, although he was a full participant in Friday's practice. But with no Evans and no Godwin on the offensive side, I really think the 49ers can direct a lot of their fire at Emeka Egbuka, try to take him out of the game. Remember last year against Tampa Bay? It was the Baker Mayfield to Cade Otton show. That's the only receiver he really had that was healthy because it was before Egbuka was in the NFL at the time. He was still in college. So Mayfield was very limited over the course of that game. He should have a little bit more dynamicism in his receiving room this time, but it's not like the Bucs are healthy. In fact, this is the most injured opponent the 49ers have faced, and ironically, it just so happens that this is another 4-1 team. This is for NFC supremacy, at least for the time being. Early inside track in that conference race to the number 1 seed. Both the Bucs and the 49ers are at 4-1, and the winner of this game will be in that top positioning in the conference when all things are said and done. One more piece of news is that Kyle Shanahan said that the 49ers are very interested in opening the practice window for Curtis Rourke at some point soon. Now, Rourke is a 7th-round pick, Canadian. By the way, Fleet Week is happening in San Francisco this weekend. Because of the government shutdown, the Blue Angels can't fly. Fleet Week's a huge weekend in San Francisco, so they're getting the Canadian Royal Air Force and their version of the Blue Angels to fly above San Francisco this weekend. So I told that to Curtis Rourke, and he was really proud. He grew up a little bit outside of Toronto, went to Indiana for college, or at least for that very end of his college tenure, played for the Indiana Hoosiers and led them to the college football playoff on a torn ACL, but that ACL has had to heal after a surgery this year. 49ers have him on the non-football injury list. They can activate him for practice, so not fully activate him, but they can open up a practice window that's 3 weeks long so he could finally get some reps in an NFL building because he missed all of OTAs and training camp. It is likely that the 49ers will just go ahead and redshirt Curtis Rourke for this season, so only get that 3 weeks of practice and then totally shut him down, because even if he's physically healthy and ready to go, no camp, no off season, it's probably a little bit too much to ask for a 7th-round pick to actually play. Brock Purdy back in 2022 actually got to play in the off season and in training camp, so there's a big difference there. But Curtis Rourke might be on that practice field soon, and the 49ers might be able to at least plant some seeds of development for him moving into the future, into 2026 and beyond. Speaking of quarterback depth, here is the interview with Adrian Martinez. I figured this would be something good for you guys to watch before the 49ers head to Tampa. And by the way, we're going to have our 49ers Bucs prediction. That's going to be a Saturday thing. Then I fly to Tampa tomorrow. Content from Tampa. It's going to be huge this weekend. A couple 4-1 teams, both of them beaten up, but it's about overcoming in the NFL. 49ers and the Bucs should put on a hell of a show that has been flexed to a later start time. It's going to be under the lights by the time this thing finishes in Tampa. I think the 49ers are excited about that because it's going to be a little hot during the daytime down in Florida. Anyway, without further ado, since I've been delaying this for long enough, here is Adrian Martinez.
Definitely. Well, I wouldn't say the process changes too much for me. I think once I set foot here in the Bay, I want to attack learning the offense and getting to know guys and our coaches. So that process started on day one. And even over the last few weeks, like you said, getting called up, I think the job of a quarterback or of any guy on this team is to prepare like you're playing, you know what I mean? So I think that's helped me in that transition of getting called up.
And obviously you got like Mac when he was in OTAs and had been here for a little while. He's like, hey, I'm still trying to figure all this out, still understandably. I mean, I'm sure you're kind of have to be somewhere in that process. I guess how would you describe, how much you think you've absorbed of this offense and how much you can handle?
Yeah, well, I feel confident, obviously, and I think that process happens every week when you go through a game plan. Starting on Monday and then Wednesday, the first real practice, and you're absorbing the game plan, and it's a process. Today's, what is it? It's Friday at 2:37, and we don't play until Sunday at 4:25. You know what I mean? So you take up all the time you can in processing and understanding our game plan, what they're trying to do, and I feel confident in it.
What?
Come on, bro.
Given the situation ahead of you with the guys, both those guys being injured, have you had to accelerate your learning process?
I wouldn't phrase it that way. Like I said, I think since day one, I've I've accelerated that process. It's there's an urgency there, and that's just part of it.
That's been there from the beginning.
Definitely.
Can you give us an idea of just what the UFL did for you and your confidence and your career?
Yeah, well, I love the UFL, and I think it's a league that is necessary and a league that gave me an opportunity to bounce back. I make a joke when people ask me about it. I call it professional JUCO, but it really is like bounce backs. There's first-round picks, third-round picks, undrafted guys like myself, and the UFL gave me an opportunity to play 12 games, show what I can do, and show that I'm an NFL guy. So it was an awesome experience. Obviously, a lot of close friends and teammates from it, and we won, so that was a lot of fun too.
Adrian, when Mac is on the ground last week grabbing at his leg, I think most people assumed, okay, it's time for Adrian Martinez to play. What are you thinking there on the sideline?
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. I was like, okay, it's time to go in, and that was the assumption I had after that moment. And then Mac, the warrior he is, he gets up, he fist pumps the crowd and comes running to the sideline. So that's my guy, So it's awesome to see him getting up like that, and I was ready, and would be ready, and that's part of my role.
I was going to ask you, are the emotions like excitement, butterflies?
There's always excitement, and I think if you don't have a couple butterflies, you're not human. You know what I mean? Like this is the NFL. It's playing football, and whether I was playing in Pop Warner or at Nebraska or K-State or the UFL, like I'm excited to go out there and play. I think it's as simple as that.
How much have you learned from Brock and Mac?
Yeah, it's a fun room. This is the first room where we're all like around the same age, so it's pretty cool that way. We have similar experiences that way, and they both played a lot of football, a lot of NFL football. So they have valuable insight, and how they see the game is always interesting for me.
So the rookies have talked about going out to dinner. There's obviously that age commonality there. Is that same kind of dynamic in the QB room where you guys can even hang out off the field?
Oh yeah, I'd say so. I think we've developed a pretty good camaraderie. I mean, I've only been here 5 weeks or so, but it wasn't hard to assimilate. I think those guys make it easy in the room. I think Mick Lombardi does a great job of kind of establishing that culture, and obviously what this team and organization does in general. You get that feel coming into the locker room that it's a brotherhood.
How did Mick look on tape with some of the passes he had to throw yesterday?
Hey, Mick played quarterback in college, right? So he can sling it a little bit.
You have a lot of zone read experience, obviously, and this team hasn't had much of that since Trey left. But I guess what can you just your history as that type of a quarterback that can run the ball as well as throw it?
Yeah, I think that's always a big part of my game. That's there at the ready, and again, if that opportunity comes up, I'll definitely be ready to run a few of those.
All right, thanks, Adrian.